Which motor oils are quietly destroying engines before they even hit 100,000 miles? And why are some of these oils still sitting on store shelves when mechanics know they cause problems? After over 20 years tearing down failed engines and analyzing what went wrong, I've seen patterns. Certain oils, whether from poor formulation, inadequate additive packages, or just straight up deceptive marketing, consistently show up in engines that fail prematurely. Today, I'm exposing 8 motor oils you should avoid, why they cause damage, and what happens when you use them in your engine. This isn't about brand bashing. This is about protecting your investment based on real evidence and documented failures. Let's break it down. First, let's establish what makes an oil dangerous for your engine. A bad oil fails in one or more critical areas: inadequate viscosity, stability that leads to film strength breakdown, poor additive packages that can't handle normal contamination loads, low-quality base stocks that oxidize quickly and turn into sludge, incompatibility with modern engine technologies like turbochargers or direct injection, or deceptive labeling that makes you think you're getting protection you're not actually receiving. When oil fails in these areas, engines suffer accelerated wear, deposits, sludge buildup, and eventually catastrophic failure. So let's go through the specific oils that cause these problems. Number 1. Ultra-cheap, no-name conventional oils. I'm talking about the house brand conventional oils at discount stores priced at $10 to $12 for 5 quarts. Oils with names you've never heard of and packaging that looks like it was designed in 1985. These oils technically meet minimum API service requirements, usually older specs like SN or SM, but they use the cheapest possible base stocks and minimal additive packages. What happens when you use these oils? They break down quickly under heat. They oxidize and thicken, turning into sludge by 3,000 to 4,000 miles. They don't protect adequately during cold starts because the viscosity modifiers are weak and the pour point is poor. I've torn down engines at 80,000 miles that used these cheap oils, changed every 5,000 miles, and the valve trains were packed with sludge, the cam lobes showed accelerated wear, the piston rings were carboned up. Using bottom-tier oil, even if you change it regularly, accumulates damage over time. Number 2. Recycled or re-refined oils from questionable sources. Re-refined oil can be high quality when done properly by reputable companies. But there are low-end re-refined oils on the market, often sold at deep discounts, that are poorly processed. They may contain contaminants that weren't fully removed during re-refining, or they use inferior additive packages to hit a price point. The danger here is inconsistency. One batch might be acceptable. The next batch might have elevated levels of metals or sulfur or other contaminants. I've seen engines develop unusual wear patterns or deposits that trace back to questionable re-refined oils. Unless you're buying re-refined oil from a major brand with quality control like Valvoline Next Gen or similar, avoid the bargain basement stuff. Number 3. Conventional oils marketed for high-mileage engines but with inadequate seal conditioners. Many high-mileage oils use seal conditioner additives to soften and swell aging seals to reduce leaks, but some cheap high-mileage oils use excessive or low-quality seal conditioners that actually damage seals over time. Instead of gently conditioning the rubber, they cause it to swell excessively and then degrade faster. I've seen engines develop new leaks after switching to certain cheap high-mileage oils. The valve cover gaskets that were fine suddenly start seeping. The rear main seal that wasn't leaking before starts dripping. The problem is overswelling from aggressive seal conditioners. Stick with reputable high-mileage oils from brands like Valvoline Max Life, Pennzoil High Mileage, or Mobil 1 High Mileage. Avoid generic high-mileage oils with vague ingredient lists. Number 4. Energy conserving. Oils that are too thin for older engines. Some modern oils are formulated for maximum fuel economy with viscosities like 0W16 or 0W20. These oils work fine in engines designed for them. New Honda, Toyota, and other manufacturers with tight tolerances. But if you put 0W20 in an older engine, designed for 5W30 or 10W30, you're asking for trouble. The oil is too thin to maintain adequate film strength on worn bearings with looser tolerances. Oil pressure drops. Bearings don't get adequate protection under load. I've seen engines with 150,000 miles develop rod knock within 10,000 miles of switching to 0W20 when they were spec'd for 5W30. The thinner oil couldn't protect the worn components. This isn't the oil's fault, it's using the wrong oil for the application. But it's common enough that it needs to be called out. Number 5. Diesel oils used in gasoline engines without understanding compatibility. Some people run diesel-rated oils like Rotella T6 or Dello 400 in gasoline engines, thinking the higher ZDDP and robust additive packages provide extra protection. And in some cases, particularly older gasoline engines or flat-tappet performance engines, diesel oils can work well. But modern diesel oils are formulated for diesel combustion chemistry, which is different from gasoline. Diesel oils often have lower detergency optimized for soot control rather than gasoline combustion byproducts. If you run a diesel oil in a modern direct injection turbocharged gasoline engine, you can end up with carbon buildup on intake valves and piston tops because the detergent package isn't optimized for gasoline. I've seen GDI engines develop severe carbon fouling after owners switched to diesel oils thinking they were getting better protection. Use gasoline-rated oils in gasoline engines unless you have a specific reason and you understand the trade-offs. Number 6. Automatic transmission fluid or other non-motor oil lubricants used as engine oil. This sounds absurd, but I've actually seen it. Someone reads online that ATF has great detergents and can flush an engine, so they run ATF as engine oil for a few hundred miles. Or they accidentally put ATF in the engine instead of motor oil and don't realize it until damage occurs. ATF is not formulated to handle combustion byproducts, extreme pressure, or the thermal cycling of engine oil. It lacks adequate anti-wear additives for engine components. Running ATF as engine oil, even briefly, causes accelerated wear. I've torn down engines that ran ATF for 500 miles, and the cam lobes were already showing damage. Never use anything other than proper motor oil in your engine. Number 7. Extremely cheap synthetic blends that are more conventional than synthetic. Synthetic blend oils are supposed to be a mix of synthetic and conventional base stocks, offering some benefits of synthetic at a lower price. But some ultra-cheap synthetic blends are 90% conventional oil with just enough synthetic to legally call it a blend, maybe 10% or less. These oils are marketed as synthetic blends to justify a slightly higher price than straight conventional, but they don't deliver meaningful synthetic benefits. They oxidize almost as quickly as conventional oils. They don't flow significantly better in cold weather. You're paying extra for minimal improvement. Brands selling 5-quart jugs of synthetic blend for $15 are likely using minimal synthetic content. You'd be better off buying quality conventional oil and changing it more frequently. Number 8. Oils that don't meet your manufacturer's required specifications. This is the most common and most dangerous category. If your engine requires API SP, ILSAC GF6, Dexos 1 Gen 3, or specific viscosity grades, and you use oil that doesn't meet those specs, you're risking warranty denial and potential engine damage. Some older oils still on shelves are labeled API SN or SM, outdated specs that don't meet requirements for modern engines with direct injection, turbocharging, or stop-start systems. Using SN-rated oil in an engine that requires SP means you're not getting adequate protection against low-speed pre-ignition, timing chain wear, or turbo deposits. I've seen warranty claims denied because owners used oil that met an older spec but not the current requirement. Even worse, I've seen engines develop timing chain stretch or turbo failures traced back to using outdated oil formulations that couldn't handle modern engine demands. So what actually happens when you use these bad oils? Let me walk you through the failure progression. In the short term, first 20,000 to 40,000 miles, you might not notice anything. The engine runs. No warning lights, everything seems fine. But internally, damage is accumulating. Cam lobes are wearing faster than they should, piston rings are building up carbon deposits, valve train components are accumulating varnish. By 60,000 to 80,000 miles, symptoms start appearing. Oil consumption increases, you're adding a quart every 1,000 miles when you shouldn't be burning any. You hear valve train noise, ticking or tapping, that gets worse when the engine is cold. Oil pressure drops at idle, the engine feels sluggish. These are warning signs that internal wear is advanced. By 90,000 to 120,000 miles, catastrophic failures start occurring. Timing chains stretch and skip, causing valve-to-piston contact and bent valves. Turbo bearings fail, sending metal debris through the engine. Rod bearings wear through their protective layer, leading to rod knock and eventually a spun bearing or thrown rod. What should have been a 200,000 to 300,000 mile engine dies before 100,000 miles. And here's the tragedy. In many of these cases, the owner thought they were maintaining the engine properly. They were changing oil, they were following some interval, maybe not the ideal interval, but they were trying. The problem was the oil itself was inadequate for the application. Let me give you a real-world example. A customer brought me a 2016 Honda Civic with the 1.5-liter turbo that had 87,000 miles and was burning a quart of oil every 500 miles. That's not normal for that engine. I pulled the valve cover and did a bore scope inspection. The piston tops were caked with carbon, the rings were stuck, the intake valves had severe deposits. I asked what oil he'd been using. He showed me receipts. He'd been using a cheap synthetic blend from a discount chain, changed every 5,000 miles. On paper, he was doing maintenance, but the oil was inadequate for a direct injection turbo engine. It couldn't handle the heat, the carbon loading, or the combustion byproducts. The engine was destroyed before 100,000 miles because of poor oil choice. Now let's talk about how to avoid these problems. First, always use oil that meets or exceeds your manufacturer's current specifications. Check your owner's manual. If it says API-SP, use API-SP. If it says Dexos 1 Gen 3, use certified Dexos oil. Don't use older spec oils just because they're cheaper. Second, use reputable brands with quality control. Mobil 1, Pennzoil, Valvoline, Castrol, Amsoil. These brands have reputations to protect and quality standards to maintain. You're not gambling on batch-to-batch consistency. Avoid no-name oils with no track record. Third, match the viscosity to your engine's requirements and condition. If your manual says 0 WU220, use 0 W20 in a newer engine. If you've got 150,000 miles and looser tolerances, consider moving up to 5 WU30 if your manual lists it as acceptable for certain conditions. Don't use oil that's too thin for your engine's wear state. Fourth, avoid mixing oil types or brands unnecessarily. If you've been running Mobil 1, don't suddenly switch to a cheap synthetic blend just because it's on sale. Consistency matters. Stick with quality oil and change it on schedule. Fifth, change oil conservatively. Even the best oil can't protect indefinitely. If you're using good oil but stretching it to 15,000 miles when you're driving is severe service, you're still risking damage. Change oil based on your actual driving conditions, not maximum marketing claims. Here's the bottom line. Bad oil kills engines before 100,000 miles. Cheap conventional oils that sludge up, questionable re-refined oils with inconsistent quality, wrong spec oils that don't meet modern engine requirements, oils too thin for worn engines, diesel oils in gasoline engines causing carbon buildup, non-motor oil fluids like ATF, deceptive synthetic blends with minimal synthetic content, and anything that doesn't meet your manufacturer's specifications. Avoid these 8 categories, use quality oil that meets spec, change it on schedule, and your engine will make it past 200,000 miles. Use bad oil, and you're gambling with a $5,000 to $10,000 engine replacement before you hit 6 figures on the odometer. What's the worst oil-related engine failure you've seen or experienced? Drop a comment with the details. I want to hear real stories of engines killed by bad oil choices. And if this breakdown helped you understand which oils to avoid, hit that like button. We're exposing the products that damage engines so you can make informed decisions and protect your investment.